Hello folks, my name is Mark. This is my new series, Monster Defense Squad, even though this is really more like the 5th episode that me and Raph have done here, but I'm renaming it,
Right.
Because fuck it.
Yes. We're here, that's all that matters.
So, we just got back from watching the new Godzilla movie last night, and I was thoroughly impressed, but Raph here is an expert in all things Godzilla, so...
Right.
Take it away. What did you think? Number one, your overall first impression of this film. I mean, as, someone from a fan's perspective, what did you, lay it on me?
Well, this is actually, when I saw it last night with you, it was my second time, because I was lucky enough to get an advanced screening
I'm barely in frame. Go on.
Yes. I got an advanced screening through, what is it? The ArcLight by the Cinerama on Hollywood.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I saw it 2 days before it officially premiered on Tuesday. Although from a lot of my friends down in other parts of America, they told me theaters just went, screw it, we're airing it early. So a lot of people got to see this movie fairly early on Wednesday.
How'd you manage to pull that off? How'd you get it?
The Vesta Theater, which is on somewhere near Sunset in Vermont, they were having a screening of King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Nice.
It was done as one of those really secretive film festival things that you don't find out until a couple days before on Facebook.
Right.
So I went down there, and since I was one of the first people in line, there were some representatives from Warner Brothers, and I got onto a list.
Oh wow!
And I didn't have to wait with the other people waiting in line who were at the who got it through the Warner Brothers connections. So I just said my name, and I got into the theater. And it was a fairly big theater. It was Theater 3 at the ArcLight, which is a lot bigger than the IMAX we went to. So, my initial first impressions, which I already did on my channel, don't worry, it's not an impressive video because I kept myself from doing spoilers. And I guess at this point we can go into spoilers at a point. Yeah.
Spoil away.
Yes. My initial first impressions was I was giddy with joy is the best way I can describe it. Because it really is, I think Movie Bob said it best, that this really is the big budget Godzilla movie every 8-year-old wants when they're a little kid. Unfortunately, we're much older people, so upon seeing it a second time, my opinion changed a little bit. But for the most part, I had a lot of... It's a movie that's meant to... It's a movie you're meant to have a lot of fun with, and unfortunately, a lot of people... they're not used to just having fun with it, especially when there's more offensive examples of just big, bombastic, or blustering Hollywood blockbusters out there.
So the fandom has a mixed reaction, huh?
Yeah, it's not just the fandom, but the general movie-going public. Well, actually, I don't know how the general moviegoers who aren't Godzilla fans or professional film critics, because a lot of professional film critics seem to hate this movie.
Well, yeah, but that's a given, really. I mean,
yeah, but it's well, here's the thing. It's from what I've noticed, I like listening to the opinions of most professional film critics. But a lot of the YouTube big stands, Chris Stuckman and all that.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, actually, he's probably the least offender. There's another guy. I can't even say his name, or else we're going to be here trying to reminisce about who's who on the internet.
I do know Chris Stuckman.
But
there's a bunch of really high tier movie review.
Yeah. In fact, it's unfortunate because Chris Stuckman's the only name I can think of, and he's one of the nicer guys, even when he doesn't like a movie. Now, there's another guy who's kind of a goatee, and he's in front of a red. I don't know, whatever, but. Yeah. But a lot of people who don't like this movie are the kind of people who aren't into monster movies,
right?
And that's why I think Godzilla 2014 appealed to them more,
right?
And that goes with big screen critics. But then again, mainstream media and Japanese media, regardless if it's Godzilla or not, is not a good mix because it's
yeah.
And not only that, but they're also kind of hypocritical. It's I remember one of the big complaints they had with Pacific Rim was there was too much robot fighting. And then Godzilla 2014 comes out a year later, and those same critics were complaining not enough Godzilla. And now there's and then King Kong comes out and says there's not enough human characters in King Kong. Right. It's come on. So, but no, as far as just a fun movie,
getting back to the movie.
Yes. I utterly had a fun time with it. Upon the second time, I was able to analytically look at the movie and actually see its flaws and everything. But for the most part, I think if I was to describe this movie, and in a kind of a backhanded but still sincere compliment, it's like the Michael Bay Transformers movies if they were more sincere and had a better head on their shoulder. It's like, now I don't want to say, and I don't mean that as an insult, but it's
Transformers by people who actually care about the source material.
not just the source material, but overall a more sincere film. Because because here you have some human characters in here that some people will claim are forgettable, but they're still like decent characters played by really likable actors, as opposed to the Transformers movies where, and forgive my terminology or lack thereof, where you have like in Transformers 2 a 10-minute sequence where John Turturro is yelling at a mentally handicapped foreign man for 10 minutes at his deli.
Yeah.
And then of course there's giant robot scrotum jokes thrown in here.
Yeah. See, I never even bothered to watch the other Transformers, because it's like the first one I hated it so fucking much that I was just like, fuck it, I'm never watching. Yeah. It's not to say I'll never watch them, but it's like I'm not going to go out of my way for it.
Yeah. Anyway. What's funny is I'm not a Transformers fan, but it's like everybody that I know, both in my personal circles and my family, they like Transformers more than I do. So I always got roped into watching these movies. But thankfully I avoided number 4, and from what I hear, it's other than maybe the Bumblebee movie, which I've heard some good things about. It's just the same movie over and over again.
Right.
And it's and I really don't want to compare Godzilla to that movie, but it's kind of similar in the sense that it's a big, silly blockbuster film. But it has
explosions.
Yes, but it has a better head on its shoulder.
Yeah.
It's a little vapid, but it's not offensively stupid and willfully stupid.
So what do you mean by vapid? Like how so?
A little shallow, but and kind of lightheaded. It's like what is it, in the 2014 movie? They went out of their way to try to make it very serious about the stakes that were going on in the cities that were being offended. Here you got that kind of that unfortunate recurring flippancy or callousness you see in Hollywood movies where something horrible is about to happen to the city of Boston and a character can only compliment. It's like, it's going to be a bad day to be a Red Sox fan.
Right.
But at the same time, it's nowhere near as offensive as, say, like the Independence Day movies, or even the Michael Bay Transformer movies, where innocent people, or even like the Stephen Sommer Van Helsing movie, where like innocent people are being killed in mass, and it's just completely written
and they're
off.
like cracking jokes and shit.
Yeah. That's why I prefer to use the word vapid as opposed to callous or flippant. So, because you can still love a vapid blonde airhead girl, but it's like as opposed to the prom princess who's flippant and would kick you over the bridge, who's callous. So, vocabulary.
I don't know if I call it callous per se.
No,
it's not like people. But it is true. It's like
that's why I'm using
there's like
vapid over callous and flippant.
It just seems like no one pauses to think about what the reality of the situation is. Mm-hmm. Right, everything because the movie moves incredibly fast. It's like one scene after another. And in fact, if there was a criticism I could think of, it would be that there is no, like we were talking about this yesterday, there is no downtime. The movie ramps up really fast, and you get the first fight with Godzilla and Ghidorah within 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. You get that first fight, and then it just never seems to go down. And and maybe there's little dips, but usually with a typical story arc, Act 1 goes up, Act 2 everything kind of calms down for a bit, and then Act 3 shit hits the fan. And it's like here it's just sort of like shit hits the fan and just keeps hitting the fan.
Yeah, escalates
forever.
Yeah,
and there's no time to pause and think about what your next move is going to be or whatever. You know what I mean? Which is not a bad thing. You really are on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is
although
cool and shit, but by the end of it. It does get a little exhausting. So you get that final, during the final battle, it's like shit's blowing up and buildings are being destroyed, and it looks awesome and stuff. But it's like, well, how you've already seen like 17 buildings get crashed through, and like 6 nuclear explosions by this point, and like all this shit, and you're like, all right, well, there's another one, So, and that comparing this to the 2014 Godzilla, that made that final battle hit harder because the first battle you only saw from a TV screen. Like you didn't get to see Godzilla fight the Muto at the airport. You just saw that on the TV screen, and it was funny.
Right.
Like people laughed
the first time. But
and
when
then the battle happens at the end, it's like it hits hard, you know. And then in this one, the battle that happens at the end doesn't hit as hard. You've already seen it's like the 5th monster battle by the time you get to the end, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome. I'm not saying it sucks. I'm just saying it's like it's not as impressive. You know, it's kind of like when you eat 12, licks of ice cream. By the time you hit number 12, it's sort of like whatever. Diminishing returns or.
You know what's funny is seeing it a second time, the movie does have some moments of quietness.
Right.
Unfortunately, because of how big the action sequences are, you do tend to forget about them because.
Right.
And it's sad too because. I don't know. I think the best monster movies are when you have an interesting human plot mixed with the monster action. But unfortunately, it's hard to find movies that are like that. And when you do have movies that are like that, you either have the monster movie fans who say the monsters aren't in it enough, like friends I've shown movies like them and Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster to, or you have people who say there's way too much monster action. This film. I was almost going to say Godzilla Final Wars, but I don't.
I mean,
but then everyone's
personally,
kung fu fighting in that.
I would err on the side of too much myself.
Too much, yeah, yeah.
I prefer there'd be too much rather than too little. But
that is true. That is true. I think the only movie I can think of that does a good job of mixing giant monster rampaging, giant monster fighting, and just an interesting human subplot with like interesting human characters is GMK from 2001. And that's probably that's the go-to Godzilla movie I would go to introduce somebody who's never seen a Japanese Godzilla movie. Unfortunately, it also suffers from being a part of the Millennium era, where every Godzilla movie was kind of a standalone what-if adventure. So it's like, what is it? I showed it to 2 friends once, and they enjoyed the movie, but it took me like 30 minutes to explain to them that it was a standalone story.
Right.
And they thought, it's like, well, how did Godzilla become a villain? Isn't he raising Minya? Where's Jet Jaguar? It's like...
Right.
But that's like somebody who you just showed, oh god.
It's like showing somebody the one issue of a comic book series.
Yeah, or worse.
And you're like, what is this one?
Yeah. And for
or a standalone or something.
Yeah. Okay, we have 34 of these films, and with different continuities. Some are standalone, some are connected, but we have a whole variety of different Godzillas within this whole Godzilla series. Right. But that doesn't exactly translate to the common moviegoer, even some fans who still kind of they still want the old days of a certain Godzilla. It's like you're getting a new flavor.
When people think Godzilla, they think the 70s, man in a rubber suit with firecrackers being shot at him, bouncing off of him.
Right. Him doing funny kung fu moves and little dances
and
exactly.
On the tail, or kind of tail kick. Right. That's what they think.
Yeah. Not realizing that you have there's many serious Godzillas.
They don't know that there's been 30 in the series.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Well, it's like, what is it? I told somebody there was 34 of those films, and he thought I was lying.
Is it 34 now?
Yes.
Including this one?
I'm counting all the Godzilla movies. I'm not just counting the Japanese ones.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. There's 34. This is the 34th one, and next year...
And the also the animated ones, too?
Yes, I'm counting all of them. Because it's like, what is it? Most people, when they count the Godzilla movies, they always forget the anime movies, or they always forget about the American Godzilla movies.
98 out.
Yeah. Even though that still counts as a Godzilla movie, despite what Toho did with the character later. Yeah.
It counts for sure.
Yeah, but no, there's 34 of these things, and next year we're going to have 35, and if Toho...
Wait, what's next year? Is it
King Kong, Godzilla vs. Kong. Yeah, we're getting in March.
2020?
Yes, we're getting in March. About 6 months from now.
Sweet.
So, yeah. But,
so let's getting back to the film.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's get back.
So it's funny you would bring up GMK, because that's what I thought. The final battle in this takes a lot of beats from GMK. So for those of you at home who have not seen GMK, it came out in 2003, was Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, All Monsters Attack, or whatever.
Right.
And
don't let the title scare you. It's a good movie.
This is actually the Godzilla from that movie. And the final battle in that is a 3-way between Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Godzilla, and they all throw down and basically there's the final battle in this one takes beats from that, almost kind of like beat for beat. right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even down to spoilers where Mothra dies and like transfers her life energy into Godzilla, like that happens in GMK, and then he comes back to life and fucks shit up, right?
Right.
So I thought that was a really cool kind of homage, but it's like almost a borderline remake almost. I don't know, that was really cool, but there were a lot of like Easter eggs.
Yeah.
In this one, you know, like I mean, I'm sure, like as you saw it said like twice, I'm sure you can probably like rattle off like 6 or 7.
Oh yeah, during the protest footage at the beginning, somebody's holding a huge white sign with blue letters saying "Destroy all monsters."
Oh really?
Yes, there's of course
see that one.
Yeah, there's of course the more obvious ones like the Oxygen Destroyer and the Shobijin. Or Little Beauties, Mothra's twin fairies.
Right.
Yeah. There's also
that one was very like. I thought that was clever how they worked that in, and then
exactly.
like their grandparents or whatever.
There's of course tons of musical cues, and it's like
they used all the monster themes.
Right.
From the old series, which is cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they count as references, but I know a lot of the unseen titans that are only mentioned on computer screens. They take a lot of names from mythology. This might be more of a coincidence, though, but one of the Titans is called Quetzalcoatl, and Godzilla's already battled a Quetzalcoatl in the 98 animated series.
Right.
So, there's also... But yeah, I won't get into that, or else I'm going to be here all day talking about obscure monster mythology.
Yeah, I mean, that most likely is a coincidence, but who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like they definitely did their homework for this one, you know. Which was really, they definitely, there's a lot of fan service, you know, in this. I don't know. It's very much true to the source material.
Yeah,
you know?
Very true. Like I think another friend of ours, Matt, that I know online, Matt Denian, who has published several kaiju books on Amazon, like Atomic Rex. I think it was him who kind of compared this to Rampage in the sense that it's like a modern day version of a 1960s Godzilla movie, and it's like a good mix of being serious enough but still having a lot of fun with the material. Right. So vapid, wonderfully vapid. Right.
But I thought it was rather
smartly silly.
Well done.
Yeah.
You know. Now some stuff that some stuff that wasn't so good. There was some of the dialogue was very forced,
clunky.
I think clunky, forced for sure. You know, there's a line where they, you know, she's Mothra, queen of the monsters, or whatever, and that was just very like your hand is kind of You just face palm yourself. Just, oh my god! I face palm myself too hard. You know, it's
what's funny is that
cheesy.
What's funny is that's
that.
That's the first time she's ever been referred to as Queen of the Monsters.
Yeah,
in an official capacity. Before then, she would just be Mothra, the Monster of Peace and Prosperity, or something like that.
Yeah. They never actually used it in a title or even in a movie. Or, right, but like a lot of the plot points just seem to be sort of like, how do we get the characters from point A to point B? And then, you know, like for example, they try to come up with a scientific reason why they would team up, the monsters would team up, right? Which I thought was cool. You know, they try to say that, you know, Godzilla and Mothra are symbiotic, right?
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that's a good enough reason as any, you know, rather because in the old movies they would just team up because they were like friends. And you would even get like Ghidorah and Gigan like giving each other high fives after they're done fighting.
Yeah,
they would do a little
Gigan too.
Yeah, they would do a little dance and then give each other a high five and then like fight some more. You know, and like so to show like that whole. I mean, the thing is, it's bad science.
Right.
It's bad science that doesn't, like the whole alpha wolf thing, folks, is bullshit. I mean, I hate to break it to you guys out there. There is no such thing as an alpha. But in the, you know, purposes of this movie, it's, you know, it makes enough sense. And it doesn't really have to be true or whatever. It's like, okay, it's just, this is the reason why, you know, Rodan fights with King Ghidorah.
Yeah, it's like sometimes
he's like being like, you know, controlled because Ghidorah is the alpha. It's like, I mean, it's fine. You know, I guess
Yes.
I guess they have at least they have a reason why they would team up and you know
Well, it's like
whatnot. So that was cool. Like at least they tried to make it sound somewhat feasible.
Feasible, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a better word, because I was going to say it is nice when you throw in a little bit of real world facts and science to explain your science fiction, but at the same time, these giant movie monsters are so spectacularly fantastical or fanciful that you can just say, you know, it's like Mothra and Godzilla are old friends.
It doesn't
like,
matter.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. It's like, what is it? King Ghidorah, you can just, you know, you don't have to say he's like the alpha predator. You can just say he's using weird alien mind control powers, plus he scares the shit out of the other monsters. So I don't think that's one of the things I've always loved about Japanese monster movies is they are more outrageous fantasy than kind of realistic science fiction. Although there has been attempts to try to do realistic science fiction in them. But for the most part, it's like in the old movies, these monsters were more than just animals behaving like animals. These were full-blown characters bordering on mythical silliness.
Yeah, well, it seemed like it started out with them being closer to being real animals, like the first 3 Godzilla movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And then by
especially
the time,
the two. Are you talking about the old movies?
Yeah, the old ones. But by the time Mothra shows up, they just sort of throw that out the window.
Yeah, yeah. It's
you know,
when you have a mythical moth goddess from a South Seas island who's only partially affected by radiation, but she's always been like that since time immemorial. Yeah, don't worry about it.
And then by the time they get to Monster Zero, they're just straight up talking to each other.
Yes, yeah,
like sitting down, conversing and shit. It's like by that point they just fuck it. These movies are like they're for kids at that point. But no, I thought it was you know, good and like as far as the actual plot to the movie and all that, it was fine. It was fine. It was I think they could have simplified it a little, you know, because it definitely like has them going all over the place. You know, they're in Boston, and then they're in Antarctica, and then they're in fucking Atlantis, and then
Mexico.
They're in Mexico, and it's like, dude, you guys just choose a fucking place and like throw down there. You know, so that was that seemed like they covered a lot of ground and not a lot of time. It's like their planes seem to be able to fly like across an entire continent in a couple hours.
You know, on one, that's a good criticism to bring up because it does seem a little unrealistic how these characters just zip zippy zap
everywhere. And then like, what is this like plane that they have? Like
the Argo.
It's like this massively. It's basically like
the flying wing.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, the plane they have is like the fucking Shield helicarrier. It's like this huge, giant, like totally nothing that huge could ever fly.
Yeah, well,
kind of thing. Like there's like hallways and like launch bays and shit in it.
Yeah, it's like where we finally got into the point of these movies where they're introducing super weapons as ridiculous as the Astragon or the Super X.
I mean, I guess it's a movie about giant monsters. Who cares? You know, obviously shit's not real.
Well, for me, yeah, you're right. The fact that the Argo has hallways and it's comfortable, sitting areas.
Right.
That's a little unrealistic. On the other hand, I did appreciate that they based the Argo, maybe unintentionally or unofficially, because of the complicated history of the Flying Wing.
Yeah.
There was a plane called the Flying Wing that was like literally, it's exactly almost like the Argo, not as big.
The tone of this one is a lot more fantastic than the first 2014 Godzilla. You know, like one thing I noticed, it seems like the organization, fucking Monarch, is that what they're called?
Yes.
It seems like that organization went from being like the department of like fucking, Parks and Recs to like SHIELD. And then in the first one, and then in this movie they're fucking SHIELD. Now they have like all these bases around the world and a giant flying airplane, and then the Godzilla base is like under. It's like they took like an oil rig and then like drilled out a cavern.
Right.
That it's so big you can fly a helicopter into it and shit. And it's like, where did all this shit come from? Like, because in Skull Island, which is in the 70s, like they're on the verge of being shut down,
and they're very small.
And they go from that to this, in like all that time. You're like, whoa, where'd all this money come from? Like, so it's kind of like they just sort of the tone of the movie just totally departed. And it's become, it's like basically watching like say, for example, we're talking about Batman, the Nolan Batman movies, and then like the sequel to that is like the Avengers. You know what I mean? Like they just completely went off into left field, and
So,
which I guess is cool. You know, I mean, I'm not objecting to it, but I can kind of see because some people out there were saying, "Wow, they're a lot different." You know, like
Well, unfortunately, that's also just I have to say Warner Brothers inconsistencies with their little film sequels.
Yeah,
because it's like. I don't like what is
these
it?
are different directors too. Right?
Yeah, different directors, but also obviously they're not hiring the right people to keep on top of the continuity. Because in the first 2014 Godzilla movie, the one with Bryan Cranston and the Mutos, Monarch was a worldwide organization, but it felt more realistic.
Yeah,
like there was a base surrounding one of the Muto larvas. But they just kind of repurpose an existing power plant to deal with it.
Right. And it was more hidden.
Yeah. But here's the unfortunate thing: in that movie, it's mentioned that Monarch's been around since well before World War II.
Right.
And then you go to Kong Skull Island, where they apparently forgot all those details, and apparently,
Monarch's there, but
it's ridiculously small. Apparently,
it's like the department of of like party supplies and balloon animals or some shit.
It's not that bad.
It's like two dudes at a desk.
But not only that, but they totally forgot that it's been around for ages. So this Monarch feels it's only been around since the 50s.
Right.
So much so that it had nothing to really do with the Godzilla bombings back in the 40s. Right. And now, this new Monarch feels way more powerful than it should be, especially for an organization that's the government wants to shut down. Now, had they been smarter about it, maybe they could have thrown some dialogue saying that in the last 5 years, Monarch's operations have improved immensely.
I mean, you would think their budget would go up. But it's like, did they build all of this shit in 5 years or something?
Yeah. Or like the governments of the world, because it's supposed to be an international organization, but they don't really explain how that works.
Yeah.
And in the first movie, they explain it's an international organization. This movie, they don't explain. They make it sound like it's American only.
Yeah.
And then and especially in Kong Skull Island. And I think that has less to do that has to do with like a complete lack of continuity or hindsight or mindfulness of the past movies.
Yeah, I think they're just retconning shit.
Yes.
I think, you know what I think what happened? I think like since 2014 came out, they saw like all these awesome Marvel movies, and they're like, it should be more like S.H.I.E.L.D., and they just retconned it. Like, it's totally like...
Yeah, you see it even... It's way worse in the DC movies.
Right.
Where it's like, apparently they're like, remaking the world every movie to such extent that it doesn't match anything that came before.
They're not even trying anymore.
Exactly. Thankfully, I think we can all agree at least this MonsterVerse movies are not as bad as the DC movies. So
to be honest though, I'm still very happy. I mean, this one story-wise is probably the weakest of the three in my opinion.
Right.
But as far as everything else, though, like...
Yeah, as spectacle and just entertainment value.
It's got, like... God, the whole thing is fighting. It just doesn't slow down. So that's one very positive thing, in my opinion. Like, although, I was just bitching about it being too crazy. I was just complaining about it, like, always being... But you are on the edge of your seat, and 2 hours go by like that. By the end, you're just like, fuck, like, so it was I thought it was great.
Yeah.
The fights are, like, fucking gnarly as hell. They're better than, like, the Kong Island fights I thought were, like, the best so far. No, this one is, like, lots of biting, and he's, like, grabbing his head and shoving it in the ground, and then there's a part where he's, like, pushes his ass through a building. Like, there's one part where the Mothra shoots webs, and like webs 3 of Ghidorah's heads on a building, and then one of them's loose and it's trying to bite the other one's off, and then like Godzilla just body slams him through the building. He's like, damn! Like they're just tag teaming them like wrestlers. I thought that was awesome.
Right.
That was totally cool. But
I do agree these fights were a lot of fun, but I'll have to respectively disagree. I thought the fights in Kong Skull Island were better.
Really?
Because I
thought they were good. But...
Yeah, they weren't as spectacular, as violent, or as gag-filled as this movie is. I will agree there. But in Kong Skull Island, the fight scenes were allowed to breathe.
Yeah.
You stuck with them as opposed to constantly turning the camera to point out the human heroes. And not only that, but they did the one thing that you almost never see in Hollywood movies. It was in the clear daylight.
Yeah.
So
these are all at night during the
yeah.
stormy rain
Yeah, yeah.
and shit.
They do try explain it, saying that wherever Ghidorah shows up, he creates his own storm,
Right.
which is kind of a cool idea. The weather kinesis. I know that word's probably wrong, but you know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Water bending.
Yeah, but yeah, sure. Yeah. But at the same time, it's being the cynical person that I am, who knows the industry a little. Most of the time, whenever you see CGI characters in darkness or in water, that's just to save money on rendering and effects.
Probably.
So that's why Godzilla 98 was in the rain the whole time, just to kind of save money on how the way things were supposed to look.
Well, they got
and
to cut some costs somehow.
Yeah, but at the same time, it feels like a huge cheat. Like, what is it? Like, oh my god, the monster's over there, and you just see the silhouette with smoke. And it's not even effective either. It's obviously they can only afford a silhouette with smoke.
Well, you know something, though? I mean, I thought it looked good enough. I really liked the angles they chose. Like, so when they're in Antarctica fighting, and it's done from the worm's eye view, so the characters are looking up, and they really look gigantic. They look like they're 300 feet tall, just... and then like shit's getting stepped on next to them, and I was just really cool, like, because you kind of think about it, like they're like ants, and imagine a bunch of ants and then two sumo wrestlers fighting. It's like that. Right. So I thought that was really awesome.
For me, those sequences were most effective whenever King Ghidorah made eye contact with somebody on the ground. Yeah. So that's not what you want to see before you die.
Exactly.
Right.
So I guess that moves us to the monster designs. I mean, we already kind of saw everything in the previews before, it hit the screen, but I think Mothra's design was the most radically changed. Because Mothra, to you people out there, I don't really have a figure.
What about Mothra Leo?
I got this one.
Yeah, it's not exactly Mothra, it's one of her kids.
Mothra has always looked something like this, which is like been usually a big overstuffed kind of plush toy.
Right.
With like a bunch of cotton balls kind of, glued together with like some paint and shit on it.
Yeah.
And the Mothra in this thing looks fucking crazy. It's like very, it's like a praying mantis almost, It's got like claws and a stinger and all that.
Right,
so I thought that was really, really well done.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree that in the past Mothra has been way more fluffy than she should be.
Yeah.
Although there has been cases where they would still create really great looking puppets and designs, like in GMK.
GMK Mothra.
Yeah, they gave her a little bit of like a wasp-like appeance.
She actually had legs.
Yeah, but she looked like a true insect, but she was still very bright and colorful. In the Tokyo SOS, she was the old school Mothra, but it was a beautifully made puppet.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. This was a very radical Mothra. Thankfully, it's one of those designs that don't work when you just see photos by itself. You just see, it's another Muto or a random insect monster.
Yeah.
But when you see her in action, you see the colors work. You see, it definitely is one of those monster designs that works better in movement than when you just see it on its own.
Right.
I'm not too sure about the Mantis editions, but then again, Michael Dougherty said he liked Mantises way better than Moths.
Right.
And I guess if you were to make Mothra feel like an actual fighting threat, you'd have to kind of give her a little more insect parts there.
Gotta give some more weaponry going.
Yeah.
I noticed they gave her a stinger too, but she doesn't have a ranged weapon, so there's no. Yeah. Well, she does have a range. She has the spider webs.
The
spider webs are just like in this movie. It's like Spider-Man. Like
exactly.
Like she's like webbing people to the walls and shit.
Traditionally Mothra has only had that powers when she was a larva.
Yeah.
But I guess they gave it, and it works too. She's a giant monster. You can play around with that.
It's like, because in the other movies, it's just like silly string being like shot.
And of course she's supposed to be a silkworm, but still it gets a little silly.
So I thought that was cool. They just like webs the heads to the fucking thing. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I also thought it was cool that when she was in her larva form, she deliberately used her silk to kind of, like, she threw soldiers around but made sure they were safely stuck in the web.
She doesn't like kill anybody.
She goes out, she's angry, but she goes out of her way not to make sure to kill anybody.
Right.
But no, her design actually worked really well. The only thing I didn't really like was just how small she was. Because I know we've had small Mothras before, But this was definitely a little on the ridiculous side. It's like
she's like 100 feet long or something.
Yeah, well, it's like her wings are huge. Her wings are massive. They're almost the size of Godzilla. But her body itself, it's the equivalent. It's like if you're Godzilla and one of your cats were Mothra.
Yeah, it's like totally. It's just
yeah.
Compared to like a human being, like she's just sort of like
and if they did more with Mothra, in fact, that's the only real criticism. She steals the show whenever she's on screen,
right?
But she's she's of the 4 big monsters, she's in it the least. Yeah. So it's like she's sweet, but we barely see her.
And that's the thing, like they don't really explain. So they go, yeah, there's a symbiotic relationship, and then she dies and revives Godzilla. Right, and the thing is that if you don't know the lore, that would confuse people. I think.
Yeah.
You know, I think like that's another one of those situations where they're assuming that the fans are gonna like understand that because you've seen all the other Godzilla movies, but the normal person is gonna be like, wait, what's going on? Like, how come she dissolved? And like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think people would get it, but it's like there's a lot of that kind of. Almost shoehorning in references like that.
Yeah,
right.
Assumptions that the audience will just understand the stuff immediately.
I think it's fine, but I could totally see
how people
a casual viewer like not being able to follow what the hell's happening.
Yeah. And like again, they didn't need to use like scientific lingo to explain it because there are different species of animals.
I mean, they don't explain that at all.
Yeah.
How she transfers the life energy. They don't even.
They don't explain that part, but the whole symbiotic relationship. I mean, because in nature there are animals that do get along and work, but it's not to the extremes of like
this. They're just sort of like birds that go and take the teeth out of crocodiles.
Yeah, but it's not the same as a dwarf and an elf becoming buddies on a road trip to fight orcs.
That's what this is kind of like. It's this is sort of like Incredible Journey kind of sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's like true animals are smart enough that they can just become sincere friends. Like you see it with a lot of cats and dogs that are really friendly to each other. But at the same time, I wish they would have, instead of trying to come up with scientific lingo to, try to explain, they would have just went the simple route, and it's like, oh, they're old friends. It's like they're it's like, yes, one's a dinosaur, one's a giant moth, but they're giant monsters smart enough to be friends.
I think it would have been better if they would have found some Godzilla remains next to the egg.
Or it's like
perfect. That would explain it.
Yeah, or like tons of cave paintings where Mothra and Godzilla are like
why are they allies? Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I think it was a good enough explanation.
Yeah.
But it does seem like a lot of plot points like that are just glossed over. In this, that was like that entire exchange was like 3 lines. They're symbiotic. Oh, well, lots of animals are symbiotic. Bam, and then it's just you're just supposed to assume that they're like allies now. And there's a lot of shit like this in this movie of stuff that it's just a thing to explain something, and then they just throw it away. Like, for example, King Ghidorah is an alien, and they come to the conclusion that. Because King Ghidorah gets one of his heads blown off, and then it regrows, and they go, nothing on Earth can do that, and you must be an alien, and then they just move on. It's like, dude, you have proof of extraterrestrial life now.
Be a little more excited about it.
And the implication doesn't hit anybody. I mean, I guess because the world is ending, so that's why. Like, they're busy and shit, but it just seems like they would talk about that a little more.
Yeah, maybe, we'll get back to the monster designs in a moment, but it does feel like this is kind of one of those Hollywood movies where they had a really good first draft, but they didn't do a second draft, and they just went back and took care of typos. Because had I made that scene, I would have further elaborated. It's like, not only does that creature regrow its head in like minutes, like seconds,
it has
actually.
3 heads, that's amazing.
Well, it has 3 heads, but there's a lot of multi-headed creatures in nature. There's a lot of reptiles that are born with 2 heads and live fairly long lives.
That's not a common
it's not a common thing. But again, it's a giant monster, so the 3 heads you can easily... But the fact that his head grows in a matter of seconds, like something out of John Carpenter's The Thing, and the fact that it survives an oxygen destroyer, if had I made the movie, I would have elaborated. It's like, not only did it grow back its head in minutes, but the thing survived a weapon that destroys oxygen, meaning this thing does not need oxygen to live. What on earth does that?
Well, I like how they kind of linked it into mythology, like they were showing pictures of the Hydra and stuff, and that's part of the Hydra's thing is to be able to grow its heads back. And so, like, I thought that was cool. Just I think they could have elaborated a little more on that.
And it's not. I know a lot of people who work in Hollywood. They say the reason they do that is they're trying to keep the movie under a certain time. But you can afford a couple of seconds just to make a point more clear.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's like, and not only that, but a lot of time there's a lot of great deleted scenes that explains a lot of things in movies that they get rid of just to make room for
something else.
Yeah, something completely superfluous, like gags that don't matter. So
or whatever. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's exactly. You got to be, especially if you have a movie that's like 2.5 hours long or whatever.
Yeah, but at the same
like
time,
every minute counts at that point. So I can see why they would be like, okay, do we really need this scene of them explaining blah blah blah? Blah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like you can afford to keep those moments in and get rid of the stuff that really isn't needed. Like, I don't know, there was a lot of like character. There's a lot of, like, what is it, in Avengers Age of Ultron, there's a lot of scenes that were left out that kind of builds up a lot of the newer characters' relationships.
Right.
And they're very short sequences, like less than 40 seconds long. They got rid of them so we could have, like, a sequel build-up with Thor in the pool or, gags at the party or something. It's like, but I don't know. I think Hollywood is less about intelligent story-making than it is about spectacle.
Well,
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little annoyed by that, but... No, getting back to Mothra.
So, go on.
Yeah, no. She's great in whatever scene she's in, but she definitely gets the least screen time of the four monsters.
So, second one was Rodan. So, Rodan's design doesn't really seem to be too changed.
Yeah, it's very true to the original.
It's got kind of a turkey kind of neck thing, like its neck is like here's the head and it. Versus the old one is just sort of like on top of his shoulders, but it actually looks pretty close. Like the face is actually like very close to the old.
Yes.
But he just seems to be like made out of lava.
Yeah. Apparently, from what the filmmakers say, his body literally has like lava as blood.
I was gonna say, like, even after he like falls in the water, like he's still on fire. So that's what it is. He's
he's
lava Tyrannosaurus.
Hence his nickname, the Fire Demon, which is brand new to the series.
So that was kind of cool. Yeah. I don't know. I really like the part where he's like flipping around and blowing up the planes. That shit was awesome. Yeah. And then he gets to fight Mothra, which was cool. But because she stabs him, and then you can see lava blood, going. So total spoiler.
Right.
But I thought that was cool. I kind of was hoping that they'd have the little bugs. What are those things called?
The Megagurons, I think they're called.
They didn't show up in this. That's too bad.
Yeah, and those were like one of the best parts of, like, the first Rodan movie is a great movie, but like the Megagurons was a really neat addition. Like, you think you're getting this movie about giant insects, and then fool you halfway, it's about giant pterodactyls.
And it like eats them all.
And what's funny is the Megagurons, despite being the lesser monsters of the movies, they're still terrifying. The way they, how like they're still done as guys in monster suits, but
they look really good.
But compared, like, what is it? It was like one of those big costumes where they had like 3 or 4 people operating in it. So, like, compared to a normal sized human, these things are freaking scary. And of course, the corpses and horror they leave behind. It's like, they're already scary when you don't see them off screen and they're dragging people underneath the water, but when you see actually them choking people to death, it's... Wait, we're talking about Megagurons. Let's get back to... Sorry
anyway,
about that.
But it's too bad that they weren't included in this. So Godzilla's design isn't changed very much. They do use burning Godzilla mode, which seems to me was almost put in as an afterthought, but it is kind of pivotal to the plot a little. It seemed to be like, hey, we need some way for him to defeat
King Ghidorah.
So how are we going to do this? Oh, well, in this movie, he melts down. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, this movie takes a lot of the source material, and it takes plot points from, like, 6 different Godzilla movies and sort of puts them together, and it works pretty well, I think. But it seems like, each one of those could have carried its own movie, almost. But it was kind of awesome. Now he's, like, burning. Like, that effect was really cool, and, like, buildings and shit are, like, burning.
Metal instantly melts in his presence.
I mean, they don't explain how he survives the explosion or whatever. Somehow he does, but...
Oh, the atomic explosion that uses the Wake 'em Up?
No. When he blows up at the
Oh
end.
yeah.
Because there's like 6. That's another thing. There's like 3 atomic explosions in this. Right. But the one at the end, where he kills Ghidorah, right? He like survives it. They don't really.
Yeah, because they make a big deal. Yeah, they make a big deal in the climax that he's so radioactive, so supercharged with atomic energy that he's going to blow up like an atomic bomb, and he survives.
Yeah, he does, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like, fine. It's like, how did that shit happen?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not really sure, but whatever, just...
Yeah, now, had they been smart, they would have said he wasn't going to explode, but he was going to radiate so much radiation that they didn't get out of there, they would be exposed. And obviously, this new Flaming Godzilla is based on the Burning Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Destroya, as well as the Godzilla's nuclear pulse, which was that power he had.
Yeah, in Biollante, they do that in this too. They have the pulse that comes out.
Yes, exactly.
That was cool. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, but no, it's like, it does feel like a first draft, doesn't it? Like,
totally.
Had they done like a second, third draft, they would probably have been more logical about, not logical, but would have made some things more.
They would have tried
more coherent. I think
they would have, tried to make it. Like they just seem to hand wave a lot of shit away.
Yeah.
And where like, it seems like a lot of this could have been sort of thought through a little more. Mm-hmm. Like it seems like all the energy went into the monster fights, which
which
is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't want people out there at home to think that I'm like upset at that because I'm not. Yeah. It was fucking awesome.
No. Well,
So,
I think before we continue the review, we should state that we did like this movie.
The movie fucking rules. It just,
you can.
We're kind of getting into the minutia of Godzilla nerddom here.
Yeah, you can still love something and still criticize it. Said my mom.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
It's a tough love, is what it is.
Tough love. Yes.
It's kind of like when you're proud of your kid for winning the spelling bee, and then you take him home and you go, but you fucked up that third word there. I'm gonna make you do more homework.
I think that's less tough love than abuse, but sure.
But so I don't know. But I thought it was cool.
Yeah. No, it's like you're right. Other than the spines being more
were they like larger or something?
Yes, they were larger, more predominant. Yes. There were definitely more flashy spines.
Right.
Or dorsal plates, as they're called. Other than that, it was still the Godzilla from 2014.
Yeah.
So
looked fine.
Yeah, they gave him a little more expressive eyes. You can see his eyes a lot more throughout the movie.
Yeah.
So, which give him a more expressive face too.
So how is it that they just assume that he's the good guy though? Because that was something that I didn't really get from the last movie either, from the 2014 movie. Mm-hmm. He kind of shows up and fights the Mutos and destroys San Francisco, but then everybody goes, like, the headline is, Godzilla saves the city. It's like, well, how the fuck did he save it? He just, like, destroyed it.
But he's not Superman, and people like Godzilla better than Superman, so there you go.
By this point, by this movie, it's 5 years later, and, like... Mm-hmm. The guy Shirazawa, and they think that he's like a hero. He's here to defend us. Well, how the fuck do you know he's here to defend you? And it's like, I don't. They just assume that somehow.
Yeah, that's always been kind of clunky because with King Kong, you kind of buy the fact that he's a decent person because he's an intelligent gorilla.
Yeah,
and maybe if they just went like saying obviously he's among the nicer giant monsters out there.
Right.
Nowhere near definitely not as mindful about the little people like Mothra does.
Like Mothra is.
Yeah, because Mothra, it's like the one. Yeah. I know a lot of people, especially in Godzilla fandom, hate Mothra. But one of the things I've always appreciated about the character was that she was a mediator between the world of monsters and humans.
Yeah, she seemed to be the only one that was like actually not there to fucking destroy shit and eat people.
Yeah. Hence her nickname, the Monster of Peace and Prosperity.
Was the only one there that was, that actually tried to protect people and evacuate people when Godzilla shows up. And what was that one where they make a big basket or whatever? And,
Godzilla versus a sea monster.
Yeah, she goes and actually saves people, whatever,
Yeah. And, it's like, had they done a little bit of like that with Godzilla, saying that, Godzilla is a fairly decent creature, so it's better to work with him and try to coexist with him. But it's like, I don't think he's they portray him as a cowboy in white, but he's not that heroic.
Like, he never actually saves anyone. Like, all he does is not attack.
Right,
And then they go,
right.
he must be a good guy. It's like, well, no, he just didn't destroy you. He just,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't like actually like stop like the other monster from stepping on somebody or some shit.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So I guess it's just more like a benevolent, dog or something.
Yeah, or a whale or an elephant that happens to get along with farmers well, but
Exactly.
But would still stop a farmer dead if the farmer went out of his way to hurt him.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I think Godzilla's characterization is a lot better in the '60s Godzilla movies. Like in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Dragon, they have all the monster summit where Mothra.
Yeah, and they're just like talking to each other.
Yeah, and it's like if it turns out that Godzilla and Rodan, they're not the nicest guys in the world, but they don't like being treated horribly by
they're
humans
being bullied.
either. Yeah,
Right.
Bullies who are being bullied
So
by smaller bullies.
In that movie, for those of you who have not seen it, there's a part where their monsters are fighting, and then the little Mothra larvae sprays them and makes them sit down and talk, and they actually talk. So this is what we're coming from.
Yeah. And as silly as that scene was, it really is it's still a fantastic eye-opening scene, because we find out monsters are just as stupid as human beings.
Yeah, and they can speak monster language.
Yeah, but it's like basically Godzilla and Rodan are the equivalent of adolescent teenagers who feel sad about themselves and they rather just fight than worry about the fate of the world.
So moving on, King Ghidorah was obviously the star of the show.
He was I think he was the VIP of this whole movie.
The design in this one was like fucking crazy. I mean, there really is no other way to, because I thought the way they updated it was really well, because King Ghidorah in all the other movies is kind of dumb looking.
Yeah.
Now, when I say dumb looking, it's just that it was never really executed well, especially in the older ones. It always seems like his heads were jiggling.
Yeah.
And it's because they were on ropes.
Yeah.
So they always had to kind of just go all over the place. And they could like barely control it.
Right. Oh,
in
God.
some of the newer movies, it looks better.
Yes.
GMK, for example, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, they actually had a puppeteer use his hands for the other monsters' heads.
But, and in this one, they're like cobras. The heads are just like. In fact, there's a part where they all kind of strike out one after another.
Right. Yes,
which was really cool. So that I thought was awesome. Each head is different too. Apparently, there was a different actor for each face.
Yeah. I was at Monsterpalooza back with you.
Yeah, I think you're the one that told me that.
Yes. They actually got 3 different motion capture actors to play each of the 3 heads. It's not as big of a deal as they made it in the media, but you can still see the results, because the middle head is obviously the one in charge.
Right.
The left head is an idiot. Or the right head.
That's the one that gets bitten off.
Yes, the right head, yeah. The right head. And the left head just does his own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was cool. The wings are more like bat wings, so you can like use them to crawl with. So it makes it a little more realistic. They're almost like arms, kind of like it shields itself with it and stuff like that. It does have those sort of backwards bending dragon legs, which were like, it's all right. But
they weren't overly noticeable.
Yeah.
It's not like some monsters where it's like some Hollywood monsters where the legs are just utterly unrealistic.
Yeah, they're like T-Rex legs.
Yes,
they are.
Yeah, but it's not like. I like the Cloverfield monster, but it's not like you have this massive, heavy body on like spindly little,
kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Or like those really horrible-looking Star Trek monsters we've been getting a lot lately, which it's like the creature is 400 megatons. Its legs are as small as straws.
Yeah, totally.
So, about King Ghidorah, it's funny you should mention it, because I like special effects in all their different forms, although I think they work better when you mix them together. Which is why I think the original Lord of the Rings movies look a lot better than the Hobbit movie. I'll move a little forward if you want.
No.
Okay,
cool.
yeah.
Just falling off my
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
In that case, that is a perfect example.
Yeah, because if you use too much CGI, you're just looking at like an unrealistic cartoon on screen. And not only that, but the way Hollywood productions go and how fast they... It's similar to the video game industry. There's such a crunch time and a need to save money that the CGI is going to suffer regardless.
Right.
But in the case of King Ghidorah, he's one of those like huge, insane creature designs that you can barely do in a live action form. Now, don't get me wrong, King Ghidorah has always been a showstopper when he shows up in a movie. You know, a big golden three-headed dragon with two tails and massive wings. And when you consider how big some of those costumes were, and it's ridiculous. Like, as well,
they're like 9 feet tall.
Yeah, 9 feet tall, and not only that, but like read Godzilla, the making of Godzilla movie history, and there's
400 pounds.
Yes. Like with Mecha King Ghidorah from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah from 1991, that costume was so insanely big and heavy that they were afraid they were going to kill the suit actor, so they just turned into a giant puppet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's nobody inside Mecha King Ghidorah. So, but what's funny is that the few King Ghidorahs that work in live action form, because for the most part, he's so huge, massive, and ungainly. All he can do is just all the spindly heads, and you can't really give him a personality. There are exceptions, like Mothra 3 had a really good version of King Ghidorah called Grand King Ghidorah.
Right.
But that's because the joke about that was actually the smallest of the King Ghidorah costumes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and not only did they save money, but it allowed them times to actually control the puppet a little better.
Right.
And ironically, that King Ghidorah was played by the same actor who would go on to play Godzilla 2000 and all the other Godzillas. But no, with this CGI King Ghidorah, you could really give him a personality. And I think the best way to describe this new King Ghidorah is he's a magnificent bastard all through and through.
Yeah.
Because not only do you give the heads each personality, but you give them like a lot of like weird movement he couldn't really do in live action.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's like I said, I think he really is the VIP of this whole film. And I love the idea that this isn't a King Ghidorah who, yes, he's awakened by eco-terrorists, but he is not a servant or a lackey to a bigger evil. He is his own major villain. And that's one of the things I've always loved about the few King Ghidorahs who were independent villains. Unfortunately, you don't get that because usually there's always some kind of alien or supervillain who's controlling them.
Yeah, it seems like in this one they try to control him and it like doesn't work.
Yeah. And not just because, like, of course, the fact that he's an alien is, ties into a lot of reasons why he's causing all the other monsters on Earth to awaken and go crazy.
Right.
But as I figured, it was just King Ghidorah being King Ghidorah. Like, he's such this massive, overwhelming force of evil, he would affect the lesser monsters. So that's why at first Rodan tries to take on King Ghidorah, but then gets his ass kicked. And
then he's like subservient.
Yes, with like that kind of like shit-eating grin that's common to like a Jim Henson Bird character.
Well, King Ghidorah's using his alphaness to his super workout, onion juice drinking alphaness to subjugate the other males by his very presence.
Steroids.
Come on, man, get woke.
Yeah, steroids from Planet X.
Take the red pill, damn it, Raph.
Right, anyway, but I won't take any pills.
No.
But, no, what I love about King Ghidorah is, I love the subplot that it's basically a battle between a good king, Godzilla, or at least a fairly decent king, and this evil alien usurper. So, but no, I think they really did a good job with King Ghidorah in this. And I love how they did, King Ghidorah seems to be a mix of all sorts of dragon ideas.
It's kind of like a Hydra.
Yeah.
You take a lot, the regrowing the head thing from the Hydra.
His face is very much like a European dragon, but you can still see a little bit of that Chinese dragon. Yeah. Because the original King Ghidorah even knowing that traditionally in Asian mythology, dragons are more benevolent and positive creatures, King Ghidorah is directly based on Asian dragons, but he is definitely not a good guy.
Right.
And it's funny, too, because a lot of people think he's a stand-in for China, but in reality, it was 1964, that was the year of the dragon, and everybody at Toho was like, hey, let's make as many dragon monsters as possible, because we love dragons, and it's 1964. So you had King Ghidorah and Manda from Atragon. Right. But, that's the real story of how that happened. There's no political subtext other than dragons! Yay!
Right. So, I thought it was cool, I thought his design was really, really cool. Speaking of which, you mentioned the battle between kings. It's something I mentioned last night. Somebody on Reddit leaked a plot synopsis of this, 6 months ago, right? And they mentioned the ending, which another spoiler here, folks, if you haven't seen it. At the ending, after Ghidorah is destroyed, the other monsters come and they kind of bow down to Godzilla because he's the new alpha,
Yeah.
right? The new king. And when I read that in the plot leak, right, which I got to go find that post now and see how accurate it was.
Mm-hmm.
But when I read that in the plot leak, I thought it was like a really dumb idea. I thought it was going to be stupid. I couldn't help but think about the Lion King and like imagining all of the animals bowing down to Simba and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Cowardly Lion's false king in Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
like Rodan breaks a pot and just puts it on top of him.
And I was just thinking about just all of the animals kind of bowing and then like the Circle of Life playing or something.
Right.
But thankfully, no, it's not like that at all. There's like 5 other ones show up, and then they all just sort of like back down, and they're not really bowing so much as like doing that the same way a dog will sort of show its subservience, like its ears go back and it kind of like cowers. They sort of cower back, and that's like
although
not as dumb as like the Circle of Life. It's not as dumb as that. So I thought it was okay. I think that's a good like segue to talk about the other monsters in the movie. Because there's a bunch of them, but they only show like 3 other ones, right?
4 of them, actually. 4. Yeah, because I know there is the new 6-legged Muto, who is different from the 8-legged female Muto from the first movie.
That had 8 legs?
In the first movie had 8 legs. This new one has...
Wait a second. It has 8 legs? Where's my Muto toy at?
Are you talking about... That's the male. He has only 4 legs.
This is the male toy.
Yeah, that's the male Muto. The bigger female one had 8 legs.
Did they not make a figure of the female one?
If they did, I've never seen it, and I don't own it. But yeah, there's a new Muto who's all by herself, or if it's a she. It
has spikes.
Yeah,
it has like spikes coming out of it. So.
Yeah. So. There is Behemoth, who looks like a giant ground sloth, but with giant woolly mammoth tusks.
Right. That one was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, apparently he's the one that a lot of fans are really liking, and he does look really cool.
Yeah.
There is Methuselah, who is that big mountainous monster from Munich, Germany, that everyone was mistaking for Anguirus or Baragon. And of course, he's probably called Methuselah because he's so freaking old.
Do they show that one at the end?
He's the one we see the least, but yeah, he's there at the end.
So, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. You barely see him because he's the least visible of them all.
What does he look like?
A bit like I would describe him like he has like a huge turtle shell, but he looks like a turtle made of rock with like huge tusks. No Gamera. Let's not bring Gamera into this conversation. It's like the minute you talk about Godzilla, it's like, is Gamera coming back? That's like saying, oh my god, is Superman going to fight the Smurfs? Is that the next movie? And I've been in conversations with people like that. So not your wonderful friends last night. I mean like real idiots I know in my personal life.
It would be awesome if like they did a Godzilla Gamera crossover, but it's probably not.
I thought you were going to say, oh, the Superman and the Smurf battle sounds great. Yeah, it's like, if you're watching this, David Gutierrez, you're an idiot.
Right.
Okay, anyways. But, Methuselah is a big old rock-like monster. He's vaguely looking like a turtle. Then there is Scully, named after the Greek...
Skyla.
Yeah, Skyla, who is that giant spider crab-looking monster with the Cthulhu-like face.
Right.
Or squid-like face for those who have no idea what Cthulhu is.
See, that one is on screen for all of 2.5 seconds. It's just like barely there.
Yeah. Actually,
but they do show it coming out of the ground.
Yeah, but you also see it in the middle of Arizona attacking a city in all its glory on the top.
Barely.
Yeah. Well,
I have to watch it again.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like somebody who saw the movie before I did, they said that those monsters were on screen for literally like 2 seconds. Like Varan and Destroy All Monsters, where it's like, whoop, whoop. But no, they're in there for at least a good 30 seconds. So at least, yeah. And you do get a really good look at these monsters. What's unfortunate, though, for most people, although I appreciate it because I'm used to mentioned but unseen monsters, monsters that exist, but they're off camera, literally off camera.
Yeah, there's like at least another like 14 of them.
Yeah, or even more than that. But yeah, on the computer screens, apparently when King Ghidorah awakens, he awakens all of the known sleeping monsters on Earth. And when you look at the screen, you catch different names like Typhon, Bunyip, Quetzalcoatl, Makilo Momembe.
Yeah.
A
lot of them were from like mythology.
Yes,
stuff like that.
yeah. Now, of course, the monsters themselves are not directly the ones from mythology,
but they're like being named after.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I did see. I saw Tiamat, and I saw. Typhoon for sure.
Yeah, there was a new one I found was
one in the Sudan.
Skimat, which is the
Skimat.
Yeah, the Egyptian goddess of war, who is like the unfun feline version of Bastet, who like the goddess of cats and sensuality. So, anyways,
yeah, there's a bunch, all over the globe or whatever. So it'd be kind of cool to see some of those show up later on. Or
well, what I'm hoping,
get some like concept artwork of them or something.
Yeah, that exactly. What I'm hoping is that when they do release an official art book, we actually get to see what some of these unseen monsters were.
Yeah.
But other than that, it is cool that,
Fuck, I hope they make toys of them. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Knowing Japan, if this movie goes over well enough, we might get, like, some limited edition behemoth statues. Or, like...
Well, I think at the least they'll make vinyls of the ones you do see.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't make vinyl toys. And you might not get, like, Monster Arts toys of behemoth and shit. Unless they're featured prominently. But, you'll probably get... the usual vinyls.
Well, we'll see. The Japanese toy industry is weird because it's like, what is it? The vinyls themselves are done to be sold as mass production.
Yeah.
And the molds that are done for that have to be pure metal, so they're really expensive to do. That's why
they make them for everything. Though. They made them for like the animated ones. They made them for the
but you have to remember. Yeah, but you have to understand those are like the famous monsters. Those are like the Superman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man of kaiju. Right. Meanwhile, lesser known kaiju aren't that fortunate, so they get toys that aren't vinyl mass production.
Right.
Like
they'll get
ornaments or like the X Plus kaiju.
Yeah, they'll get some that will. What it is like a company will buy a 24-hour license, and then they'll have a toy show, and then they'll make a toy that they can only sell at that show.
Yeah,
and they'll make 200 of them.
Yeah,
and
then very
suddenly on the secondary market, they're like, now you can get this for $300 or whatever.
Yeah. Or like X Plus, which are they have
super
the
high quality
model sets, but because they're super quality high model sets, they're rare and expensive regardless if they're new or old.
Yeah, X Plus stuff is really always expensive. It's very nice though.
Yeah. That's why we never got a vinyl toy Titanosaurus until fairly recently, because that had to be like massive fan demand, and even then it was very limited. So so that Titanosaurus of yours over there is
that's worth some cash.
Yeah, that's quite rare.
I know.
There.
That one I know is worth some money, but I mean they'll come out eventually. I mean. I'm kind of hoping to see. I mean, I don't even if they don't make toys, I at least want to see artwork of them.
Yeah, to be fair though, I think Mecha, the American company, Mika, who did the
NECA.
Mecha, yeah. MECA?
NECA.
Oh, NECA. Okay, thank you.
They made the Pacific Rim ones.
Yeah, I think they might. I think they might end up making toys of some of the rarer monsters in there. Cool. So and they do good work too. So
totally.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. But I mean, I'd be happy to. I hope they feature these a little more in the next movie, which is going to be King Kong versus Godzilla. You know, which they basically just the whole end sequence to this is just a commercial for come see King Kong versus Godzilla. It's happening. Come see it. Come see it.
Right.
It's going to be awesome. I mean, that's kind of like what I've been hoping for this whole time, is to finally see that in, a modern movie with modern effects.
Yeah, especially since, as much as I love the Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla, I think that movie does need a more straight-faced remake. So,
definitely could use one, for sure.
Yeah.
But I was very happy with this one. I was very happy. I mean, it seems like, I know you at home are watching, thinking that we just sat here and bagged on it for an hour. Right, but no, I mean, it's like, once again, I really, really enjoyed it.
Same here.
And I think I want to see it again.
Oh yeah,
like in the theaters. I usually never go to a movie twice. Yeah. Like
I'm probably going to see it on like Discount Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. So just to see it again.
Right on.
Although I did miss out on Detective Pikachu, so I might end up seeing that instead with a friend. But No. This movie was made. It's obvious for me, at least, that this movie was made to be a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
And I think if you go in with a mindset of just wanting to have fun with a movie that doesn't offend you too much with its simplicity, again, going back to the actual Michael Bay Transformers movies, I think you're going to get a very good time out of this. But at the same time, it is definitely flawed. And of the 3 MonsterVerse movies, I think it's like... Well, here's the thing. The great thing about like having so many Godzilla movies is they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. Because there is no perfect Godzilla movie, but if you take a Godzilla movie on its own accord, you get a lot of entertainment out of it. Like, you know, I practically love all the movies out of the MonsterVerse, although I still think Kong Skull Island is the superior of the 3 so far. Yeah.
You know, on closer reflection, that movie just fits together better. Mm-hmm. So I would rank that my number 1, with this being number 2.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
2014 being number 3.
Yeah, and a close third, I have to say, too, because I've watched 2014 so much that I've come to like the movie quite a bit, even though I know it's less about the monsters and more about the people surviving through this fantastic
that one's more like a disaster movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like a...
Yeah, and thankfully an intelligent one. It's not like... It's not like the ones they did in the 90s where it's like, there's a volcano in Los Angeles.
Oh, we need to get this gangbanger to help us put this thing up in order to stop the volcano.
Yeah, exactly.
Lava.
Yeah, or
whatever.
Yeah, or rolling
a tornado or something.
Yeah.
That stupid-ass tornado movie, which is like the dumbest movie ever made.
Twister?
Twister. Oh, God. My God. I hated that shit.
Yeah, it's like where twisters magically show up out of nowhere, on a clear sky. I know there's probably some of you who are living in mid-America who says, that's exactly like it is in Showman. Yeah, but there's still clouds connected to the... It's like literally the twisters and twisters feel like you can be taking a shower and a twister shows up in the room.
Right. But seriously, though, you could take Godzilla out of that movie and make it about a volcano, and it would be pretty close.
Yeah, although thankfully we still got some good monsters in there. And I know a lot of people say 2014 doesn't have enough Godzilla in it. But I think the Mutos as our de facto stars do a good job, and there's some really good moments of suspense, like when our 2 soldier characters are on the bridge with the Muto trying to find them, or not find them, but that's a very effective sequence. Right. I have love for 2014, but it would definitely be on the 3rd if I was to rank these movies.
Yeah,
and I will obviously I'll shut up because I've been talking too much this episode.
But I would say for sure that's my ranking also. You know, Skull Island first. It was just very it came together a lot better.
Yes.
You know, like this movie feels a lot more disjointed. You know. But not to say that it's still not bad. It's still not a bad movie. Right. It's it's a solid 7 out of 10. And I would give Skull Island like a 9 out of 10. You know, and then Godzilla 2014 is like a 6.5.
Yeah, I would I agree with you about the Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's definitely a 7 out of 10. You said, yeah,
somewhere around. You know,
actually. No,
that's like a B plus.
Yeah, I would give
on its SATs. It's getting it can get into kind of a mid-range college, sort of.
I'm not used to
financial aid.
Yeah, I'm not used to doing 1 out of 10, so I'm just going to go with the good old 4-star system. 2014 would be 3 stars, or 2 stars and a half. It fluctuates sometimes. This new Godzilla movie definitely 3 stars, and Kong Skull Island 3 stars and a half, bordering on 4. So,
all right. Well, I think we should probably wrap this up. It's been over an hour.
But again. Mark, we need to talk about the complete history of the mega neurons and how they appeared throughout all of Godzilla franchise history.
Save that. There's still like 32 other Godzilla movies to talk about. So we'll do this again pretty soon.
Yes.
I guess, folks.
All right. Bye.